Ah, ink. It's one of the great joys of owning and using a fountain pen. But with so many makers and colors and varieties, choosing an ink can be nearly impossible. But it's something we all want to do. Choosing an ink, though, is a very personal thing. I know in the early days I really didn't care much about trying to match an ink with a particular pen. These days it's almost always what I do. But how do you choose what color will look best with any particular pen or writing project or preference or need? Ink swatches are great. Ink samples might even be better. But can you always trust those swatches and samples? Let's find out. Hi there, this is Tim at Truphae, and I'm going to show you today something that a lot of fountain pen owners might find very, very frustrating. Spoiler alert, I think it's fascinating and a lot of fun. But that is the fact that you choose an ink color based on maybe something you see on a website, or even better, with an ink sample that you purchase, or an ink swatch if you're fortunate enough to be close to a retail store. But then you get home and you try that ink on your paper and it doesn't look exactly like you thought it would. Why is that? And why does this happen? So I'm going to show you one example of that today. I'm going to choose a particular ink. It is just one of my very, very favorites from Pilot. It's their Iroshizuku Shinkai. I've used this ink for years. In fact, when I first purchased it, I inked up a TWSBI 580 with an extra fine nib, put nib to paper. It wrote beautifully. I loved it, used it that way for years. Then I purchased a 1.1 millimeter stub nib for that 580, inked the pen up, put it to paper, and wow, did I ever receive a surprise. The ink looked nothing like it had for the 2 years previous that I'd used it. It had different color properties, different shading, and that's part of what I want to demonstrate today, that the nib width and the paper you're using can sometimes have a tremendous effect on how an ink looks. Let's take a look. So this is Shinkai with a TWSBI fine nib. This is a steel nib made by Yovo. And this is a beautiful blue-black ink. Now watch this. This is the exact same ink with a TWSBI 1.1 millimeter stub nib. Beautiful, but so different. Just look at that. Shinkai at the top, Shinkai below, two TWSBI 580s, one fine nib, one 1.1 millimeter stub. And here is that same comparison on Tomoe River cream paper. Here is the TWSBI 580 with a 1.1 millimeter stub. And here is the TWSBI 580 with a fine nib. Same Shinkai ink, same difference in how the ink looks and even its color. But let me try to show you this. There's even a difference in color between the Clairefontaine paper and the Tomoe River paper. Now obviously one of those reasons is because the Clairefontaine is white and this Tomoe River is cream. But even if they were the same white, Clairefontaine white, Tomoe River, the inks would be slightly different. As I said earlier in this video, I think this is fascinating and it is a really fun thing to watch and to observe. So just realize ink swatches come really, really close. Ink samples especially do. But don't be surprised if when you get the ink home and ink up your own pen, the ink is just slightly different than what you expected. It may in fact be better, but that's just another reason to keep trying inks. Thanks as always for joining me today. Please remember to subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified when we publish new videos. Thanks again for this time today. Happy writing, and remember to be incredible.